Okay, so welcome back to day two of my strength training. So today is going to be three strength movements. So I've got bench, I've got regular pull-ups, and I've got dips. So the dips and the bench do work similar muscle groups. So I will see how they go training in conjunction with each other. I wouldn't train ring dips and bench together because I work a lot of chest when I do ring dips. So that's like very, very, very similar muscle groups. In fact, like I find it almost the exact same muscle groups. So I'm definitely not going to be doing rings and dips together, but I want to see how normal conventional dips and bench go together. So we'll see how today goes. But we're starting off with pull-ups. And lots of people always ask me, so what are my core exercises? What do I do for core? And one thing that a lot of people underestimate is the fact that compound movements use so much core. And when I say compound movements, I'm not just talking about your conventional deadlift, bench, and squat. I'm talking about pull-ups and obviously Olympic weightlifting and dips and, like all those movements use so much core. And I actually built most of my abdominal area, my core area, and got a six-pack literally just learning how to do pull-ups and push-ups. So don't underestimate doing movements like that the correct way. And that's what I'm going to run through today is how I approach my pull-ups, how I set up, how I get my body positioning, and how it actually uses so much of my core for stabilizing. So when I do a pull-up, the first thing I do is I always have almost like that hollow hold position. So I squeeze my bum in, my core is nice and tight, and I really point my toes a little bit forward, and that's how I set up for my pull-up. So the next thing I do is, I can either go thumb over or thumb around depending on how I'm feeling, and you need to choose which one's best for you. What I've learned with muscle ups is obviously thumb round, and that's what I've been advised for calisthenics. When I was doing CrossFit, I would do thumb over. So you need to figure out which grip is better. So what you want to do is you hang on the bar, okay? Contract your scapula. So you can see that movement. That is the beginning of a pull-up. So you want to pull up, and you can see I'm in a hollow hold position, right? And from there, you pull up. Okay, and no, it seems simpler than it actually is, especially if you're still learning the pull-up, and obviously you want to use an elastic band and things like that. But even simply holding and hanging onto the bar, doing dig hangs, number one, in the correct position, in the hollow hold position, where you're pointing forward, your core is engaged. So I'll just take off my shirt so you can actually see what I'm talking about. Ooh, shit. Don't turn off my microphone. Yeah. Take off my shirt. So if you see, okay, if I'm in the hollow hold position, so that's just hanging, okay? Everything's loose, nothing's engaged. You want to start there with your pull-up. So you're pointing your toes forward, your core is engaged, and then you retract your scapula, okay? And that is a really hard position to hold. So literally just hanging in that position will work your core. And that is simple things that I do that work my core. And, it's not like I'm directly going, okay, I'm doing a core exercise. I'm using my core within another exercise. And that's what a lot of people underestimate is the fact that I won't necessarily go, okay, I'm going to do these core exercises. I'm going to do crunches and this and this and this. Everything I do has a reason behind it. And when you squat, you're using your core. When you're deadlifting, you're using your core. When you're doing your pull-ups, you're using a lot of core. And that's why if you look at calisthenics people, they often have very, very, very defined six-packs. They're usually shredded and they have a low body fat because they want to be as light as possible. But they have a very defined core because every single exercise they're doing use so much core stabilization. So just make sure. So literally, if you are learning to do pull-ups, a simple thing to do is to literally do some hangs on the bar in the correct hollow hold position. So literally just get on the bar, point your toes, contract your scapula, and hang. Okay? And just do as long as you possibly can. 3 to 4 sets for as long as you possibly can. The goal is 30 seconds, so 4 sets of 30 seconds in that hollow hold hang. Once you've done that, start using an elastic band, looping it overhead, and you can start doing elastic band negatives. And another thing that I love to do, and I'm obviously still doing it for single arm pull-ups, is negatives. So what you want to do, okay, you can do this in conjunction, or you can switch between elastic bands, and you can do negatives. Negatives involves jumping to the top of the bar so your chin is over the bar, and then trying to control the negative as much as you possibly can. So this would be a negative. Obviously, I'm going to slow it down so that you can really see exactly what I'm talking about. You can see I keep my hollow hold position, my scapula is engaged, my lats are engaged. So even if you're starting out, okay, and you're learning the pull up, literally, even if you're doing, okay, but you try to control your lats, control your scapula, keep your core tight. Those are the beginning steps for learning to do a pull up. But most importantly, just remember, a pull up is lats and scapula and keeping your core nice and tight. There are secondary muscles like your biceps, your triceps, and all of those. But the most important thing is literally just contract your lats, okay? Spread out your scapula and then pull, okay? So those are the 2 key points. Contract your lats like that. Expand your scapula being your shoulder blade. So you want to kind of like hollow hold into that position when you're about to do a pull-up. Okay, so you contract your lats, then you bring your shoulder blades apart into a hollow hold position. And then you're in a really strong position. And if your core is screaming at you and you're like, oh my word, I can barely hold this, you know you're in a good position and the strongest position that you can possibly be. And that's a work position that you want to hold and work on strengthening. And you can do that in the hollow hold, dragon flags, planks, pseudo planches. There's so many different options of strengthening that hollow hold position. Even if you just do hollow holds, that will strengthen this position and help with your pull-ups in the long run. So one more time, I'll just show you once more, okay? So point your toes, contract your lats, expand your scapula, and pull. Sweet. So I'm going to start with my weighted pull-ups now. The goal is obviously 3 sets of 3, working up to the heaviest weight that I possibly can. 35 kilograms last week. So I'm hoping for a 37.5 kilograms this week for 3 of 3. We'll see how it gets on. So I'm going to start with 25 kilograms. Let's go. Yeah. Okay, so working set number 1, I'm going to waddle over with my 25 kilogram plate. Okay, so literally waddle over. So what I like to do personally is I like the plates between my thighs and my knees, and I kind of squeeze the plate together. And that I feel really helps stabilize me a bit more. I've seen some people put the plate in front of their feet. Never done that. My chain's not long enough. I actually need to get a longer chain so I can give that a go. But I really like squeezing it between my thighs. So if you are at the stage where you're adding weights, definitely try squeezing the between your thighs. It really stabilizes a lot more and help with that hollow hold position involuntarily, so you're not even thinking about it. So 3 reps. Okay, so that was a nice warm up. We're going to jump to 35. Um, and I'm hoping the 35 isn't my first working set and that I can go slightly heavier for my first working set, but we'll see soon enough. You can see like even my lats are starting to like get a pump already just from engaging them and showing you how to do it. Like never underestimate body weight exercises. Okay, so I haven't rested particularly long. I literally just put the 10 on, or brought the 10 together. So we'll see how the set works, and then after the set, I'm gonna rest longer. Okay, right. So 3 reps. Who? Not my first working set. Hopefully, I can go a little heavier. Then this. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now the question is, do you think I brave 40 or do 37.5? I don't know, hey? I did that with my chin-ups. I did 40 with my chin-ups last week. So let's try fuck. I don't know. Nope. I'm gonna try 37.5 for my first working set, see how that feels. And if it's good enough, I'll then go up to 40, but we'll see how it goes. Catch you in a bit. Okay, so this is either going to go really well or really terribly because I've decided to try out 40. So we'll see how this goes. So 10, 5, and a 25. So 3 reps potentially on 40 kilograms. Okay. Right. Right. Let's see. Got it. Got it. Yee. Okay. So I'm gonna stay at 40 kilograms for 2 more sets. I'm really, really, really happy with that. I felt like I engaged my lats. The last one was like just on the edge, but to be fair, I feel like even if I had gone slightly heavier, like 41.5 or so, I feel like I still could have gone it, but I'm gonna stay at 40. I'm gonna do 2 more sets there. So I'm gonna finish off here and then I'm gonna go bench and then I'm gonna try dipping and see how dips feel after bench. Yeah, but really, really, really freaking happy with that. So 2 more sets, let's go. Okay, so I have done my 3 sets of 3. Really, really happy with how they felt. Like for having never really done weighted pull-ups, I'm really, really excited with my progress. So now that I've done my 3 of 3, I'm going to work on some capacity pull-ups, focusing on really that explosiveness of pulling as high as I possibly can, and I'm going to do kind of like max sets, 4 max sets, with the goal being a minimum of like 10 reps. We'll see how it goes. Even I have to, break it up, I want to still get a minimum of 10 reps per set, 4 sets. So I'm just going to work on the capacity, the explosiveness, which I feel like will help both with the pull-ups and the muscle ups. So I'm just going to work on that really explosiveness of pulling nice and high whilst keeping it extremely strict. So at no point, if you're doing a pull-up, should you stay kind of in that position, where you're just doing a 3/4 rep range. You want to extend all the way and then pull again. So I'm going to do my first set, see how it feels. I may be overly ambitious and maybe my lats are fatigued from the weighted. So maybe I end up doing like 3, but hopefully it's closer to 10. We're about to find out. So remember that hollow hold position. You want to keep that nice pointed toes. You don't have to point your toes. I just use that as a cue because I feel like it helps intuitively keep the hollow hold position. But you don't have to. That's just, something I like to do. Oh, yeah, that was spicy. No, don't bother. Okay. So, as you can see, I started quite explosive, got quite high, progressively got lower and lower and lower, but still managed over 10 reps. I think it was 12, maybe 13. I don't know. I lost count. But I know I got over 10. So that was the goal. So I'm going to do another 3 sets. I'm going to rest quite a bit of time between us. They've actually done studies that show that you need to rest like at least 2 minutes between sets. Even for bodybuilding, take the time, rest and recover fully, because the last thing you want to do is, unless you're doing like a blood pumper or you're doing like a drop set or something like that, you want to rest enough so that your sets are optimal and efficient and as powerful as possible. Because I'm doing more of a strength piece, I may rest up to 5-6 minutes between sets, so I'm fully recovered and I can really maximize the movement as much as possible. So, even if you're doing bodybuilding, take time to rest. And if you're in a rush, maybe even drop the number of sets. The goal is optimally for bodybuilding and hypertrophy is kind of like 8 to 12 reps, 3 to 4 sets of like 3 exercises per muscle group. So we're kind of doing some bodybuilding in this kind of movement. So I'm using a lot of back and I'm doing a rep range that will maximize hypertrophy while still helping with my goals towards the calisthenics and getting more powerful in my pulling position. So the best of both worlds, 3 more sets. I'm gonna rest a bit, recover, get my heart rate down. It feels like cardio. The closest I'm getting to cardio at this point in time. So I'll do 3 more sets and then on to bench and then some dips, depending on how I feel. So I'm home after my training session. So today was bench, dips, and pull-ups. So I ran through the pull-ups with you. And then after that, I did bench. Now, bench went really, really well. I feel like the third week, 3 sets of 3, even though it's like the heaviest set, because it's only like 3 sets, you're like, okay, I can get this done. Like in terms of intimidation factor or, you know, just like feeling broken, I feel the least amount broken on this week. The rep ranges are lower, the rest times are longer, and I don't know, for me, 3 of 3 is the easiest week of the lot. Maybe because it's like the less intensive cardio kind of, you know, aspect, even though 505 is nowhere near cardio. But so the bench went really well. I managed 102.5, which was the goal. I kind of sneakily was hoping for a 105, but if if I had a spotter, I probably would have attempted it because just taking it off the rack exerts energy. So if I had had a spotter to re-rack and unrack the bar, I probably might have attempted 105 for my last set, but I didn't. So that's absolutely fine. I just focused on driving through my feet. The last rep was like a push, but definitely doable enough that I felt confident not needing a spotter. But obviously for safety reasons, I still didn't have clips on either side so that if I did fail, I could pivot to the left and to the right and pull the weights off. But it is better, in all truth, to either A, have safety racks, which obviously these benches aren't equipped for, or B, having a spotter. And I should have a spotter. I know people will comment and say, why don't you have a spotter? And yes, you're supposed to have a spotter. But I didn't, and I don't like asking people, you know, and I'm always worried that, you know, if you're failing the rep, or not failing, but it's a grind up, that they're going to pull the bar off of you. And I'm like, no, don't pull it off me. Which is, you know, like, unless the bar comes back down, if you are a spotter and you're over spotting someone, never lift the bar off of them unless the bar starts going back down. So if they're pushing, and then it starts going back down, that's when you lift it off. But other than that, don't assist, because if you get someone like me, I'll get very annoyed with you, even though you're trying to do good. So I did the bench and then I went and did dips, and the dips I was freaking happy with, though truth be told, I might have been just a slightly bit ambitious. I probably should have done 67.5 instead of 70. The third rep was a grind. I still kind of look at it and go, okay, it's a pass in terms of getting shoulder in line with elbow at the bottom and then pressing through to lock out at the top. So to me, it was still a rep, but the last rep was like a grind. And so I did the 3 sets at 70 kilograms, and after that, after the bench, the dips, and the pull-ups, along with the higher volume pull-ups, I didn't do very many accessories, simply because it had taken quite a bit of time to do these massive weights, and so I just did a little bit of core, and this is, you know, this is what I consider core, and it's essentially L-sit pull-ups. If you can't do L-sit pull-ups, then literally just hang and do an L-sit hold. If you can't do an L-sit hold, then do a knee tuck hold, and if you can't hold it, then just do tuck raises. That is my version of core, and probably one of my favorite ways of incorporating core. Obviously this is to strengthen my calisthenics, but obviously is a very core dominant exercise, though funnily enough, my hip flexors gave up before my core did, and which is another reason why I'm doing a lot of hip flexor exercises to really strengthen my leg areas, because with the hamstring issue and everything else, I'm definitely feeling like I need to strengthen my entire lower body. My upper body, in comparison to my lower body, is pretty weak. The fact is, I can bench more than I can front squat, which is probably not a good thing. But anyway, so I cycled home, and I wanted to cover something which I've never actually covered before. So now I cycled to and from gym, and my legs this morning were like, oh, DOMS. If you don't know what DOMS are, it's delayed onset muscle soreness, and that's what happens once you've essentially, muscles grow by you tearing them apart, and then they regrow bigger and stronger and better, and that's how you get hypertrophy. Essentially, growing the muscle is by you going into the gym and you tearing the muscles apart and getting micro fractures throughout the muscle. Obviously, you don't want to like a tear, but you'll like make little micro fractures all the way through the muscle, and when that muscle rebuilds, it rebuilds stronger and better. And sometimes obviously that can lead to delayed onset muscle soreness, and that's why you need to have lots of protein. So I recommend 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and that is one of those like very underestimated things, and people really struggle to get in their protein. And so that's why, you know, simple things like after gym having like a little protein, you know, some people have protein shakes. I just have a little protein. Remember that the closer the protein is to human form, as in like animal protein, or you can use pea protein, or what's the ISO, the other is ISO. I can't remember. So it's either pea or maybe rice or soya protein if you are vegan. But preferably, in my opinion, use meat, because it is very similar to our bodies, and so the amino acid ratio is very similar. And obviously your body will process the amino acids better when they're in a better ratio to what your body needs. So I could explain in more detail, but I feel like that's an entire different video. So I just have a little bit of protein post gym, a yogurt. It's 11 grams of protein, quick, easy. It's so small, like it's just like a little snacky thing. And then when I get home, I have 2 whole eggs and 5 egg whites, which I use egg white powder, so I'm not wasting eggs for just the egg white. And that's just another way to get an extra protein without necessarily extra calories, because you know the egg yolk is where the calories are in terms of the fat. And I just want to make sure that I'm getting in enough protein throughout the day, because I like to personally get in around about 150 grams of protein, which is slightly more than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. But the priority for me is those 150 grams are all from animal products. Oh, I'm stepping on some toes there when I said that. But yes, so you want a protein source that is rich in amino acids. So yes, you can do, you know, the ISO protein, pea protein, and those kind of proteins, or you could do dairy and eggs. I was vegetarian for a while. Like I literally lived on dairy and cheese and eggs for a while. And so I have nothing against being vegetarian. Vegan is far harder for you to get in all the amino acids that you need in the correct ratios that you need, even though it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to have all the ratios in one meal exact. Your body will absorb throughout the course of the day, but it's far easier just to say, okay, I'm getting in 150 grams of protein. All of it is from animal products.
Therefore, almost all of it will be used by the body, because not all the protein that you get from plant products will necessarily be absorbed by your body in the same manner as meat products would be. Anyway, I'm tangenting a lot, because what I actually wanted to talk about was the cycle home. So the cycle home um, is supposed to be a recovery cycle, but it's not. The cycle to gym is more of a recovery cycle. And what I mean by this is, if you are struggling with recovery, especially in your lower body, you can do what's called zone 2 cardio. And zone 2 cardio is essentially just getting blood into the muscle, which will bring lactic acid into the muscle and will help with recovery. Lactic acid helps with recovery. So, in layman's term, just getting blood into the muscle will help with recovery. And you can work out your zone 2 if you've got like a heart rate monitor, or you can Google your age. Your age through a calculation will work out your different zones, and then you can use a heart rate monitor or get the fancy Garmin's which show you where your heart rate is, and you can monitor your heart rate and do 20-30 minutes just slow intensity on the bike or whatever you want to do in zone 2. It's almost impossible to run in zone 2, so it would be like a fast-paced walk. But essentially that is a great way to help with recovery if you're struggling with like any form of DOMS, because it just gets the blood into the muscle, flushes it out, and helps with recovery. Even if you've got an injury, that's why people do blood restriction training, because you restrict the blood flow to the muscle, which causes a severe amount of lactic acid buildup. And then that will obviously help the muscle recover, because it's gotten this huge flush of lactic acid and then a huge flush of blood flow through the muscle, and that will help with recovery. So lactic acid helps with recovery. Zone 2 cardio will help with recovery. But unfortunately, my zone 2 is not really existent when I cycle home because of all the hills, so it's more like zone 3 into zone 4 cardio, which is like fat burning zone. So not ideal for recovery. But funnily enough, when I woke up this morning, I was like, oh my word, I have DOMS. Like, oh, my legs felt it. I was like, whoo, quads, those sissy squats and the sissy squat variations that I did, I felt in my quads. So definitely give that a try if you haven't tried it already. But man, my quads were like tender. And then I cycled to gym, which was mostly zone 2, minus 1 or 2 little hills. And my legs were obviously they're going to be warmer, but definitely just the blood circulation into the legs, they definitely felt like, okay, not as aware of the DOMS as I was first thing in the morning. Could have just been that they were warmer after the cycle, but definitely if you are struggling with DOMS and you have time, you can do a little bit of cycling, a little bit of high-paced walking, and just get the blood circulation into the muscle to help with recovery. So that is my tip of the day, is lactic acid, flushing out the muscles, zone 2 cardio, just to help with recovery. And cardio is your friend. Like before, when I was like strictly in bodybuilding, I was like, cardio is the enemy. But it's not. Like, cardio just allows you to eat more, which allows you to recover more, which allows you to do more, and therefore stay leaner whilst building. And I love cardio for that aspect of recovery, being able to eat more and staying lean. I don't like cardio. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go outside and run just because I want to run. But I do like the aspect of being able to cycle to gym and cycle home, which is like a built-in forced kind of way of doing cardio. And that is a nice thing. Like, if your gym isn't too far away and you have a bicycle, I would say cycle, because when when you are forced to do it, like it's not like you're going to the gym and then you're going to train and then you'll do like 10 or 20 minutes of cardio afterwards before going home. If you are literally forced to do it, then you've got no options. Whereas after a training session, you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing cardio. I'm just going to skip it today. And then the next day goes and it's like, oh, I don't feel like doing it. I'm going to just skip it today. And that can happen because we're human. But if you are literally like, well, I don't have an option because I cycled here, so I have to cycle home, you know, there's your cardio right there. You know, obviously if the gym's like an hour away, I wouldn't recommend it. But if it's, you know, in a relatively short distance, you know, like a 10-15 minute cycle, go for it, you know, like it will only do your body good. So yeah, I recommend that kind of cardio. Zone 2 is all you need. It will help with recovery. It will allow you to eat a bit more. It will help, and obviously if you're trying to lose weight, then, you know, don't increase your calories, because then you're just gonna be in a deficit, which will help you to get your results a little bit quicker. But yes, I just wanted to say that. So I'm really excited with training today. It felt really good. I hope you got some information and it made sense to you. And if you have any questions about any particular subject that I just touched on briefly now, let me know and I will cover it in more depth, because I feel like I explained it a little bit, but you probably have questions. So if you're not too sure about anything, comment below. But the brief brushstrokes is, try to get in 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And when I say 1 gram of protein, I'm not talking about the actual like animal or whatever product, you know. So if I say like 1 gram of protein, I'm not saying like chicken, like weighed out chicken. I'm talking about if you take a chicken breast, okay, and you have 100 grams of it, then you've got 30 grams of protein within that 100 grams of cooked chicken breast, okay? So that is how you calculate your macros. So that's the best way to do it. So for example, let's take this yogurt, okay? This yogurt is 150 grams, okay? That does not mean there is 150 grams of protein in it, okay? There are 11.7 grams of protein in the 150 grams of yogurt. Same applies for red meat. So let's look at red meat. So I've got this beef, okay? So per 100 grams of weight of beef, right, there is 20 grams of protein. So obviously that's raw weight. So in this 500 grams of protein, there is 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 grams of protein, okay? So don't get confused by the weight of the protein as opposed to the weight of the protein as in the animal product or the egg or the pea protein or whatever, okay? And the actual protein value within it, okay? So there is 20 grams per 100 of this particular beef. So just check out the protein value of whatever you're eating and then add it all up to get your protein for the day. There are lots and lots and lots of macro trackers online. So if you're not too sure, you literally plug in the product and it will give you a breakdown of the different macros within it. But I definitely do recommend trying to figure out your protein, making sure that you're getting in at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, 0.8 to 1 gram of protein. As I say, mine is slightly over, but not much. I think my pound weight is like 140, so I'm getting in 150. But as I say, that's all from meat. So any additional protein from the rice I'm eating, from the oats I'm eating, that is additional protein, but I'm not counting it because I'm just counting the animal protein that I eat. So yes, that is a bit more about my diet, how I approach my meals, how I approach my cardio, Comment below if you would like more details on any subject matter that I covered today. And I hope you are kicking ass in all your goals. If you are following along with the strength cycle, let me know what numbers you're hitting. And we are into week 3 of 3, the week 3 of the block. And then next week we hit it again with 505. So let's keep on kicking ass.